Alright, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. I'm going to prune this dwarf jade today. Either way, dwarf jade is easy enough. We'll report. This is I don't know, when I trim my ports, I try not to put all that much thought into it unless I'm really trying to put some new shape into it. Once you kind of get to the shape you want, you can actually just kind of really start pinching and pinching and pinching and just kind of keep it that shape, which I had intended to do with this one. But to be honest with you, I kind of forgot about it. I don't water these in the summer at all. I really kind of rarely water them in the winter too. We kind of get a little rain here and there, not very often, but I mean I do water in the winter when they look like they need it. But so I don't really pay that much attention to them, and actually kind of forgot that this one was kind of set. So it's got a lot longer shoots than I usually would if I was happy with the shape of it. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Once I get to the top will probably be quite a bit of just hedge pruning. So here at the bottom is where I really want to think about some of this. I'm going to try not to time lapse it. But what I got here, it's like if I just started with this one branch here, there's basically two super long shoots coming off of it, a little short one, and then one coming straight up. I definitely don't want the straight up growth. And then these super long shoots, I'm really just going to kind of, I'm going to cut them down to a little bit shorter than that other smaller shoot. And then I'm going to, some people count leaves or whatever. I don't really count leaves. I just cut it down to about where I think it should be. And I'm going to do the same thing just pretty much all the way around with all these lower branches. And that is just kind of lop off the longer shoots, cut all the straight up growth off. Ports don't really shoot out all that much straight down growth, but if I notice any, I'll try to get that. This is kind of a little bit of a bad spot here where this branch dips down and kind of gets into this one, but I feel like if I took that one completely off, I'd have too big of a bare spot on the tree, so I don't want to take that one off, but I want to get the growth coming off this other branch where they're kind of competing with each other a little bit. That looks a lot better. Whenever I do this, even though these don't really have growing tips on it like a ficus does, I do try to also, even if some of these are not like super long or anything, I try to get every growing tip too, because when you do a whole tree prune like this, if you miss any growing tips, they'll start kind of like becoming the new leader, or they'll just take that momentum and run with it. And then I'll go out there in a week or so and kind of walk by and start noticing 2 or 3 of them just kind of growing out of control. So I try to get everything I can, even if it is just the tip. That's what she said. I hope maybe I'm able to find some older pictures for this guy. I know I don't have too many, but this is actually a story of this tree got this much movement straight out of some neglect. I took some cuttings and just kind of set them off to the side. I knew I wouldn't have to water them. And somehow or another, this one kind of got about turned halfway upside down in a storm or something. And then about the time I went to go look at it, I was like, oh man, this thing's kind of ruined. It just looks so lopsided and everything, but I've kind of just worked with it since. At one point, and I don't know if I'll find any pictures like that, but I actually had a rock holding it up because of how crooked it was in the pot, and I was almost under the impression that it was the root of a rock. And then I went to go kind of just check on it one day and realized it wasn't a root of a rock. I just had that rock sitting in there holding it up. So now this would be the last of what I'm kind of considering the lower branches, even though it's almost up here in the apex. And then, so it's got, obviously the trunk here. This is actually, a lot of my ports really don't have very good Navarre at all. This is one of the best ones as far as that, just having a nice little spread at the bottom. But I did most of the lower ones, tried to create some separation between the pads. Really not a whole lot of organization to it, but I kind of like that. And then kind of has this general movement where it comes back up over this way. I kind of allowed that just for some balance. And now up here, I'm just pretty much going to hedge prune. I maybe even just because I kind of neglected it for so long, go a little deeper than I normally would, but let's just see what it looks like when I'm done here. Can actually, when I say I forgot about it a little bit, I can actually see evidence that I must have been coming through, kind of pruning the top off here and there, because there wasn't any prune marks, recent prune marks down here, but I must have been hitting this top just a little bit. So maybe I won't have to get it so severely. Let's see. It's kind of, that branch I just kind of got there, kind of almost growing in on itself or going in on the tree, but it's also kind of where the crown's starting, so I don't really want to take the whole thing off just yet. Alright, sometimes I forget I got the camera viewfinder there. It actually gives me a little more of a bird's eye view than just looking at it from here. And I think that'll work. I think maybe I'll try to keep this maybe up a little bit closer instead of having it out there in my neglected part of the yard or whatever. And then now that I've got it kind of shaped a little bit, I'll try to pinch it off a little more often and try to really build this into a super dense canopy.